Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Beyond the Books. My name is Alex Chong, and before we get started on our interview with Sam Melo today, I just want to say a few words about what's going on. Obviously, this past 2 weeks, has been very difficult for a lot of us in a lot of different ways. We are witnessing, and way overdue, finally addressing some of the racial injustices that are going on in this country. It's important that we continue to stay aware of this and that we continue to fight the good fight to ensure that situations such as George Floyd's does not happen again. Some encouraging news today, just breaking. The Minneapolis Police Department has been ordered by the council to undergo extensive reform and change, including stuff like putting less money in the police department and the militarization side, and putting more money into the communal side. So there's definitely a lot of hope. I know Indianapolis is also looking into reform as well. I just encourage you all to keep using your voices. Our voices have shown to be very powerful in this country, which is a huge blessing. And we just got to make sure that these changes are going through. With that being said, today's forecast, 82 degrees under sunny skies. Perfect to get conditions for a podcast. Welcome to Beyond the Books, where we go deep into the backgrounds and stories of our future healthcare heroes. And I'm very excited to have Sam Melo. She is from Florida, and she has traveled all the way to Indiana. Sam, how are you doing?
Oh, hello.
Hi.
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Sam, we have one mission today. Today's mission is to prove that Sam Melo is more than just a medical student. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
All right, ready to get started?
I am. Thanks for having me.
Of course, absolutely. So the MO, kind of the same pattern I've been following for these past episodes, was that I dig into a first high school job or what have you. But first of all, I couldn't find your LinkedIn, so that was kind of thrown out the window. But there was one job you had during your time at University of Florida that was so interesting that we just have to do that one first. So Sam, what can you tell me about your days as I think it's cycling class instructor at the UF Recreational Center?
Oh my gosh, that was the best job ever. I loved it. I did it for 3 years. Oh, there I am.
Mm-hmm.
I did it for 3 years. It was awesome. I had a strong crew that would come out and take my classes pretty religiously for a couple of years. And it was just so much fun. It was great to see the same faces and see their transformations. It was just awesome. I can't say enough about it, really.
How big were your classes?
The biggest were 20 people, so not huge. But it usually ranged from, so in this room, it was 15, and then in the other room, you could fit 20.
Gotcha. And what was your class like? Was it a cycling class, or was there a little bit more to it?
No, it was mostly cycling, but we obviously brought in life aspects and motivational aspects. And I had a running playlist, so the students that came back could add on whatever song they want, and I would promise to play it within the next 2 classes. So that could get very interesting, but it was really fun, and I think it kept everyone kind of engaged and felt like we were all part of a team. So it was great.
Gotcha. You did Monday, Wednesday, and Friday classes, right?
Alex, you dug so deep.
Yes.
Yes, I did. It depended on the semester. So I taught for, I guess, 6 semesters. So it would change every semester. But I would try to do 3 to 4 classes a week. And sometimes I would do one at 6 a.m. and one at 6 p.m. So that was a time. But yes, I would try to do at least 3 or 4 a week.
Yeah, you transitioned perfectly to my next question, was that, do you kind of notice a different mood between the people who come in at 6 a.m. versus the people who come in at 6 p.m.?
Definitely. Sometimes we would have teachers come at 6 a.m. So that was really fun. It was more of an adult crowd at 6 a.m. Not adult, I guess we're all adults, but teachers or staff at UF. So that was fun. And then in the evening, it was more younger students.
Got you. And Another curiosity I had, now I've never done a cycling class, so this could be just total ignorance on my part here. See, the thing I wouldn't understand is obviously like you have to make classes a little bit different each time. I
Hmm.
mean, one of the ways you kind of described already was having the students add on to the playlist at the end. What other strategies or kind of planning did you do to kind of keep the classes fresh for everybody?
I think the playlist is like the most important thing, and that I thought was the hardest part of planning is making a solid playlist that was up to date and fun. But also, I like a very choreographed class, so I would choreograph. I know it sounds so lame. I would choreograph like every single song, so I would do like countdowns and things like that. And every song was a little bit different. And sometimes people would come up at the end of class and say like, I know this song and I think we should do this to it. And like for someone to say something, you're like, oh my God, you're so engaged. So I really took a lot of feedback in making my classes, but it's just fun. I mean, it really can't go poorly for the most part. So yeah.
Is there right now, if you had to pick like an awesome motivational song, it's like, okay, you've biked for, how long were your classes? Like a bit, about an hour or so, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's minute 55, you're exhausted, you have to push for those last 5 minutes. What is one song that you think is like a good push it to the end song?
Oof. Okay. I don't know if I remember the name, but there was this mashup on YouTube and it was a Millie.
Okay, okay.
It was called Power, I'm pretty sure. It was a mix up of like four different songs and it was just so good. I'll think of it and I will let you know. But it's not on Spotify or iTunes or anything like that. It was actually a song that this instructor whose classes I went to in high school would play at the end of every single one of her classes. And her like cousin or something created it. Very long-winded, but anyways, I would play it at the end of like any hard class or at least at the end of one class a week, and it was just like a fun thing to do.
And like everyone's like, oh, yes, that playlist. Yes, I know what
Yeah,
this is. Yeah, and we can
exactly.
kind of pick up their spirits. That's so cool that you got it from another teacher and another, from a different environment as well.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right, Sam. So let's get out of this picture here. All right, Sam. Speaking of the University of Florida, I kind of want to play a game. And this is a game I completely made up myself.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be a game called How Florida Is This? Because as you might, or as you probably are aware of, a lot of unusual news headlines start something with like Florida man, blah, 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 right?
It's unfortunate.
So I thought it would be fun to kind of pull up just three random headlines that I found while going on the internet. We'll rate them like 1 to 10 of how Florida is this. And then I'll ask you a question about growing up in Florida. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
All right, let's pull up the first article here. Okay, so this guy, Sam, how much do you like Wendy's?
Oof. I'm not a big Wendy's gal.
Okay, so that's probably a good thing that you're not a Wendy's fan because this incident occurred in a Wendy's. Headline reads, assault. Ooh, are you there, Sam? Hey, everybody. Looks like we got back Sam. Sorry about the internet troubles there. We're about to show the first article of the game, How Florida Is This? So let's go ahead and share the first article here. So headline reads, assault with a deadly weapon. Florida man charged with throwing alligator into Wendy's. So it's a 24-year-old man. He says that Steve Irwin is his idol. And he decided to play a prank by, this was like 1:30 in the morning, and decides to throw an alligator into Wendy's. Sam, what is your reaction to this article? Is this a common occurrence in your area?
There are a lot of alligators where I went to college. So this honestly wouldn't be that sounds horrible. This wouldn't be that shocking,
Mhm.
unfortunately. So I would give it a 9 out of 10. Very Florida.
Very Florida. Okay. Have you ever been close to an alligator while
I
you were there?
have,
Yeah.
yes. I've actually held one. They would have them at all of the fairs, like baby alligators, you know.
Hmm.
So I've held them before, but even like going on walks or runs around campus, they're just like laying across the sidewalk.
Got you.
I know that sounds really crazy, but they are, and you just step over them, and that's that.
And you kind of get used to it, right?
You do. It's weird.
Got you. Because I know if I saw an alligator, I would be very terrified. So
Yes, they're scary, but
yeah,
normally they're okay.
they're okay. Okay. All right. So Sam, the first question I have for you while you were growing up in Florida is that okay, so growing up in Indiana, if we are like looking for something to do on the weekend, we may go to the movies or hang out like at a local park. We're feeling crazy, maybe we'll go downtown. But you all in Florida have a much more variety of options. You have like Universal Studios, you have Disney World, you have SeaWorld. So where was like the place to be? Like was there one theme park that like kind of lorded over the other two?
Um, I would say a lot of people go to Universal,
Hmm.
but we also have a lot of like local theme parks. Like in Tampa, where I grew up, we have Busch Gardens, which is kind of like Six Flags. And we would usually go there. But yeah, I would say of like the Disney Universal area, a lot of people go to Universal or Epcot 'cause you can drink around the world at Epcot.
Got you. Is there how many times have you been to Universal Studio or Disney?
Honestly, not that many. I know that's probably surprising. But my family just didn't go very much. I've probably been to Disney World like maybe 3 times.
Okay. Okay.
Not very many.
I feel like that happens a lot though, because like when there's like something so close to you, it's like, oh, I can go to it anytime.
Exactly.
I have a free week. I'm gonna go fly somewhere, and you
Yeah,
kind of end up not seeing the place as the places closest to you, not as much
definitely.
as you expect. Um, okay, are you ready for the second Florida article?
I think I'm ready.
All right, let's do this. So let's share the screen here. Headline reads, Man trying to run from Florida to Bermuda in an inflatable bubble, rescued by Coast Guard, not for the first time, but this was his second attempt. Have you
Mm-hmm.
heard of this story before?
I have not.
You have not. Okay, so let's show you what the bubble looked like, just so people can get an
Please
idea
do.
of what the bubble looked like here. So here's the bubble, a nice little contraption here, and here's the background story. So he was actually trying to run across the world in this little bubble,
Hmm.
but the Coast Guard won't let him because they thought, it's too dangerous. He's going to overheat in the bubble. Probably not a good idea. Sam, being a native of Florida,
Oh,
do a lot of people try to run away in bubbles?
I have never heard of this before, actually. I would say maybe a 5 out of 10
Maybe
for me.
5 out of 10? Okay, so now it's Florida's chucking alligators into the water.
Definitely not.
Definitely not. Okay. All right. So after transitioning from this article here, all right, Sam, give me a little bit of idea of the University of Florida nightlife. Was it more popular? Would you rather, if it was like a Friday night, go sip cheap drinks at balls or go to the salty spittoon?
Oh, this is great. We went to balls all the time.
Yes.
The drinks were like maybe $1.
Yes.
Oh, there we are, right at
Yes.
balls, our favorite place.
Hmm.
Yes, it was very cheap. It was very dirty, but it was so much fun. And every time you go, you know that your friends are going to be there. Like, when does that ever happen? I was talking about this the other day. When are you going to walk into a bar and you know that at least like 5 of your friends will be present? That's just such a college thing. So, yes, we're ball scouts.
Absolutely. Oh, is that what it's called? Ball Scouts? Is that really what it's called?
No, no, I'm
Oh,
just
okay,
kidding.
got you. It kind
This
kind of
was
threw me.
called this event though, everybody wore all jean and it's called the Balls Ball.
Oh, what is that?
It was just an event that my sorority had every year. That was like a ball, it was a joke. But we wore
Yes,
all jean for seniors week. So this was senior year at the Balls Ball.
very cool. And I should have asked you this before we got in there, but did you ever participate in something called Gator Stomping?
I don't think I did.
Okay.
Gator
It,
stomping.
yeah, it's some sort of bar crawl. I'm not sure if undergrads do this or graduate students do this, but I was kind of curious if you ever heard of it or participated in it. But let's say you're trying to, okay, you've gone to balls, you had some drinks there. It's a good start to the evening. Where was the one place to kind of end the night, like a club or like something like that?
Um, we would usually go next door to it's called Salty.
Oh, salty spittoon.
Salty Dog.
Oh, salty dog. Okay, salty
Yes,
dog.
very
Okay,
close.
yes.
They also had cheap drinks and it was right next door. You could walk like 10 feet and it was right there. But they also had food, which was the
Mm,
key. So they would have platters of
okay.
fried food, like they would have mac and cheese, fried triangles, so good. Or they would have like chicken tender, whatever. They had food and that was very important. So we would eat there.
Got you. All right. Another question before we move on to the final article here. So obviously, the University of Florida football team is much better than the Indiana University football team. I will be the first to admit that.
Okay.
Do you have any memories of cheering on the football team from the swamp?
Yes, I will say so. I went my first Indiana University game,
Yes.
football game. I was in a little bit of shock because the student section was empty.
Yeah.
That just like would never happen at UF. No matter I stood in the rain for so long one game, all of us had to get brand new cell phones.
What?
Yes, we
Oh, it
stood in
just
the
broke.
rain.
Ooh.
Like our phones are waterlogged, all of our cash was like soaked. I mean, you go all out.
Yeah.
So we would go in the rain, we would go the noon games. The first game I ever went to was a noon game my freshman year. So like, obviously the game was at noon and you're in Florida. So it's like 105 degrees or something. Oh,
Yes.
love that. It's like 105 degrees in the stadium. And in the student section, you're directly in the sunlight. So people will pass out throughout the game and they have medics just come and grab people from the student section and carry them off. And you're just like, oh, okay, whatever. Because it's so hot and people are drinking or they're tired, whatever. And they just pass out and it's very like normal. And I was a little alarmed, but then it's just the norm.
It's like, yeah, it's hot, so rainy,
Yeah,
but it's
we
fun.
go to war.
Yeah, but it's fun, right?
It was very fun, yes.
Who would you say is Florida's biggest rival? Is it Florida State? Is it Miami? Or who would you say is the biggest rival here?
It's Florida State.
Florida
No
State.
question about it. Yeah, for that game every year, it's usually on like the Thanksgiving weekend game.
Mm,
So you would travel to wherever it was, which is it could be in Tallahassee at FSU or it could be in Gainesville. Everybody goes. So fun. There's often a little bit of fighting or, bickering, whatever. But it's so fun.
what will be a rivalry game without bickering or fighting, right?
We don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be a huge mystery. All right, Sam, I got one more Florida thing that I need you to rank here. It's going to be in video form rather than
Oh boy.
a headline form because I thought this was something else. So let's pull it up here. I'm going to share the screen. I'm going to make sure the volume is working okay.
Oh no.
Share computer sound. Okay, let's play this here. So the headline is Man Caught on Camera Stealing a Peacock.
After all the running into and out of the frame of Jasper's surveillance cameras in what looks like a scene from The Roadrunner, only with peacocks, he gets what he came for. Bird tucked under his arm, he sprints to his truck with an angry mob of peacocks on his tail.
All the other peacocks, they run behind him.
With 7 news cameras rolling, Jasper...
All right, Sam. So we had a guy. He picks up. He really wants a peacock, I guess. Goes to a lady's house who I guess owns a lot of peacocks. Picks one up, tucks it under his arm, sprints, and then the peacocks chase after him.
Mm-hmm.
What's your reaction to this?
I didn't know that Florida had many peacocks, around. And I've never heard of people like stealing them or trading them. But outside of the peacock itself, this situation sounds familiar.
Okay. Scale 1 to
So
10. What's the Florida score on this one?
probably a 7.
7? Okay. Okay. So the Wendy's Alligator wins the Florida battle.
For sure.
For sure. All right, awesome. Okay, Sam. So my last question is that obviously you had to move from Florida to Indiana in order to get started at med school here. What's one thing about Indiana that surprised you?
I would say, I think that it's, that's me and my mom. I think that it just has so much more, this is not going to sound great, but when people say, so sorry, when people say, oh, you're moving to Indiana, like even people in Indiana said, oh, you're from Florida, why do you live here? Things like that. And you're just like, why would you say that? But, you know, people that don't live here think like you're in the middle of nowhere, and you're not.
Okay.
Like there's just so much to do, and I think especially in Bloomington there's a lot of nature and trails and hiking. You don't hike in Florida. Where are you going to hike? On the beach? So yeah, well, I really like that. So I love that about Bloomington, and there's a lot of just like outdoor things to do, and it's not that hot. I just think I was surprised pleasantly by how much life there is here, where other people act like there's nothing here. They're wrong.
Yeah, how did your friends you said, is that how your friends reacted? It's like, Indiana? What's in Indiana?
Exactly. They're like, do they have internet there?
Are you serious?
What? It's horrible. But even people now, when they see my driver's license, I know.
Yeah.
But like at regular, like when I'm at a bar or something, they're like, oh, from Florida? Why the heck do you live here? I'm like, you should like where you live. It's nice here.
Is there one saying that Indiana doesn't have, that Florida does have, that you do miss while living in Indiana?
Probably just the water. I grew up on the water. I love being on the water. There are definitely a lot more like lakes and rivers here than I had expected. But I think just like the open bay or the ocean, I definitely miss.
Absolutely. And last question I have here. So we know the popular Florida beaches, right? Like you have Miami Beach, you have maybe Jacksonville or something like that. Clearwater, another popular one. Is there one beach that you think is being underrated? That like, oh, this is actually really nice, but not many people actually know about it.
So I grew up near Clearwater Beach, but just south of that is St. Pete Beach, which I prefer personally because it's a little bit quieter, but the sands are just as white and the water's just as clear. So I would probably say St. Pete Beach.
And I will second that because my friend lives in one of my good friends lived in Jacksonville, and we actually went to St. Pete, and I was really surprised how not overran it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so also a supporter of St. Pete as well. All right, Sam. So thank you very much for playing How Florida Is This? Hope this was a good game. But we are going to move on to a very important part of your University of Florida college experience. Let me see if I can do the hand sign right.
Oh boy.
Yes.
Oh boy.
What is?
You're close. You're missing the middle finger.
Okay. What sign am I trying to do?
It is a triangle on the top for Delta and a V on the bottom for Zeta.
Got you. So we are obviously talking about Delta Zeta, your days there. So this is a question I asked Jack in the previous episode. I kind of want to ask you the same question because I don't know if it's different for fraternities and sororities. So when I looked up on the website, there are 18 sororities at the University of Florida. How, out of all of those 18, did you choose Delta Zeta?
Well, you do have to go through the rush process, which can be a bit hectic to say the least.
Yes, can I quote something before
go right ahead.
So yeah, I was looking at the Delta Zeta of University of Florida website. That is officially in my website history.
Oh boy.
And the current recruitment chair had like a page of like explaining like recruitment process, and one of the quotes was a little bit like eyebrow raising to me. It says, "The truth is, recruitment is not for the faint-hearted. It is a long process, and it can be tough sometimes. what makes the recruitment process so not for the faint-hearted?
I will say that is not an understatement.
Okay. Okay.
So it is, I want to say it was a 7-day long process, which doesn't sound very long, but you go every day for the entire day and you sit in these tents outside of the houses where it's literally 1,000 degrees because you're in Florida and it's the summertime. So you're sweating violently and you're trying to look very presentable. So that's like stressor number one, that you're sweating so much. But you go into every house and then you're just bombarded with questions and you have to be your best self all day while you're sweating and being asked these questions that you probably don't know the answer to. And you just have to be very personable, even if you don't click with this person. So I think that can be a struggle. But you do meet people that you really like, and that's very rewarding.
Got you. What was something about Delta Zeta that like, yes, I like this house. They're going to be towards the top of my list.
I just felt this sounds very cliche. I felt very comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Other houses you walk in and you feel like you're being so harshly judged or you're just not clicking with that person. And that can be very stressful when you're a young person, you don't really know what you're doing or, and you think this other person you're speaking to is judging you straight to your face. So at DZ, Delta Zeta, whatever, I just felt very comfortable. They were so chill. We were talking about school. What do you want to study? Whatever. It was just very laid back. And
Got
I
you.
love that.
Got you, which is very important, I think. Especially if you're going to spend, 3 or 4 years with them. With the same.
Yeah.
If you had to give one piece of advice for a newbie who's just going through the rush process, what would be the one piece of advice that you would supply?
I would say if you feel uncomfortable, it's probably not the place for you. And that's okay. You're going to find a place where you feel comfortable. So don't stress or think that something is wrong with you if you're uncomfortable. It's just not the right fit. And that's okay.
Absolutely. All right. So, wise words of advice. There is another curiosity that I have about sororities in general, because as you probably can tell, I don't know much about sororities. So when I was kind of doing my research and going through your Facebook/Instagram timeline, a repeating theme that I kept seeing was like costume theme parties, right?
Oh boy. Mm-hmm.
So I saw like a puppy dog theme, I saw like a rapper theme, I saw like some sort of like combo flower power Dalmatian theme, which I didn't quite understand, but that's okay. I guess my first question is, was there one theme that you just loved over the others?
I can't say there was a specific theme that I loved, but oh boy.
Here's a reindeer theme. Yes.
Yes, this was our big little ceremony. Whatever, we were reindeer. I don't really have an explanation for that.
That's okay.
But there was this one party where we were hosting a Halloween party, and me and my friend dressed up as like Siamese twins.
Oh, cool.
So we shared a t-shirt and the same shoes, and we waddled around all night. And this was like 2 weeks after we met each other. So that's pretty close quarters. But now, I mean, we're still really, really close. And so I think about that day all the time.
Gotcha. Who comes up with, this is another curious, who comes up with the theme ideas? Like who stands up and say, ladies, it's going to be 80s night for this theme? Like who, is it like a voting process? Is there someone in charge of this? Like how does this get decided?
So most of the parties that we would attend were hosted by the fraternity. So the fraternity would decide on this, which is controversial in my opinion. But
okay.
If we were to decide, they would usually come up like the president, vice president, the exec board would come up with like 5 ideas. And then at our little weekly meeting, we would raise our hands and vote for whichever one we wanted.
Cool. Okay. There you go. Some behind the scenes from Sam. Okay. So we're trying a new segment on this podcast. So let's see if this works. Let me pull this up real quick. we're going to try, because it is time for, this is Hot Takes Corner. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to ask you a question that might be mildly, not so controversial, honestly. But I just wanted your hot take on this opinion here. So obviously in sorority culture, there are a lot of traditions that have been held for many, many years. And, you know, I mean, some of them are great, I'm sure. But I'm sure there's got to be one or a couple, or maybe more than a couple ones that you're kind of thinking in your mind, why am I doing this? Like, I'll give you an example. Like, if I had to do a door chant, I would question in my mind, why in the world am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so hot take time. Was there ever any tradition that Delta Zeta did that you kind of thought, what, why? Just like, why?
I really disliked Rush.
Okay.
Really, a lot. But it's
Okay.
not a DZ specific thing. We did do chants, hated, not fun, not fun.
Right.
I am an awkward person and I'm not cut out for Rush. So I think there are certain people that are cut out for Rush, but me personally, not cut out for it.
Right. It's one of those things that's like necessary because you have to know, you know, who you're going to bring in. But it is hard because it's very exhausting. You're constantly talking and smiling and being bubbly for who knows how long, you said 7 days straight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it could be very hard too, because like if you don't get the sorority that maybe you were expecting to get, or like other like unexpected turns like that, yeah, it could definitely be difficult. So yeah, I totally understand why someone may not like Rush. Does anyone love Rush?
No, these people exist.
Okay.
They live to
They
Rush,
live for that.
but not me.
Did you also have, this is not on my list, but like, did you also have people who like had to, because I knew people in Indiana who like had to like, not delete, but kind of deactivate their social media accounts, or like completely change their name or identity or whatever. Like, did that exist at University of Florida as well?
It existed. We
Gotcha.
would have to, like, I guess you would say delete your Facebook or freeze it or whatever the term is for that entire period of time. Again, another thing that I don't think is necessary, but they didn't want you speaking with the potential new members during that time. Like if they were to Facebook message you and say like, I enjoyed meeting you, or I hate your story, or whatever, you couldn't have that interaction.
Got you. All right. Hot take served by Sam. So thank you very much. But let's end it on a sweeter note here. So obviously, as I can tell again by your social media accounts, you seem to really enjoy your time at Delta Zeta. What's one saying that you got from Delta Zeta that if you decided not to do the sorority process, maybe you wouldn't have gotten if you didn't do Delta Zeta?
Again, another cheesy response.
No, please.
But I would say two of my very best friends I met in the sorority. We lived together for 4 years and we're still super close, talk almost every day. And I really don't know how I would have met them outside of that. We had different majors, we were studying different things. I don't know how we would have ever come to know each other that way. So I'm very thankful for that.
Long live the sisterhood, right? Sorry. Okay, so let's move on from that. So a cool trip that you got to do during your time at University of Florida was you got to go to Cusco, Peru, through an organization called Medlife. So tell me a little bit about this trip. What were you doing in Cusco, Peru?
So we went to Cusco for a week and we would work with Peruvian doctors and nurses that lived there and served there. And we would break up into groups with certain physicians and we would go to these extremely rural communities. I mean, not like anywhere you've ever imagined being. And we would just go help them. So they would go, I think, once a month with student groups and have a pop-up clinic, and they would just serve the community with any of their needs. We had medication, we had everything. No like surgical procedures or anything, but it was just nice to provide like primary care to the community. And people would walk, I mean, they would walk 50 miles to get there. It was nuts, but it was really great.
So I know this was not your first time outside of the country, because I know you went to, I think, Amsterdam with, was it your dad, I think?
No, it's my dad.
Yeah, so you've been out of the country before, but
Mm-hmm.
there's definitely a different flavor when you're going to a more touristy parts of a destination and then kind of seeing the, I don't want to say reality, but kind of the challenges that some of the people are facing while being in a certain country. So what were some, you talked about the having to walk for 50 miles to access medications. What were some other things that really caught your eye while you were doing your service at Cusco?
Like I said, it was extremely rural. But I mean, the people that would come to visit us were so grateful. Like here, you don't see people, praising you for taking their blood pressure or putting them on a scale. So that was pretty eye-opening. And a lot of them wouldn't wear shoes. They've never worn shoes their whole life. But also something that I thought was really interesting was they don't really take medication unless they're in a dire situation. But the individuals that were walking to come to the clinic, some of them were like 109 years old.
Oh, wow.
And they would just walk on in 105, 102. We saw so many people that were over 100 and they just look great. They look like they're 60. So that I thought was amazing that they have not, they don't really have access to medical care outside of this pop-up clinic, but they're doing great. So that was so crazy to me.
Yeah, that's interesting. It kind of makes you wonder, because we have more, like here we have more like access to technology and certain things like that. But yeah, it kind of makes you wonder if some of this is kind of more harming us than doing us some good. Because, unfortunately, we don't know a lot of people in the United States that live to 109, 110, what have you.
Right.
Yeah, so very, very interesting. So a cool thing that you got to see while you're at Cusco was Machu Picchu.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to ask you, because like I feel like when a lot of people travel, we see these beautiful things behind us, and it kind of makes you think a little bit. Think about something. So let me pull up this picture. Well, okay, it's you're not looking at this picture, but that's okay. What do you remember, or what was something you were thinking about while staring off into Machu Picchu?
I think we've just seen so many pictures of the, wonders of the world, and you see them online. To me, this looked nothing like the photos, but it was so much prettier. I just think I was surprised because I had this image in my mind. Oh, I'm going to go to this place and this is what it's going to look like. And some of it did, but a lot of it was so different than what I had expected. And also I was trying really hard to breathe because you're really high and you hike up the whole thing and you're, so far above sea level. I mean, people had to go to the hospital because we just couldn't breathe. So that was on my mind, but I definitely think it was interesting how you picture one place to be, so crystal clear, this is what it's going to look like. And then it's so much better than that.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool because like even in the pictures, it looks incredible, but you're saying that in person, it really takes the cake on that one.
Definitely.
Gotcha. And yeah, tell me, because I've heard about this before. I heard it's quite a process to even make it up to the view that you're able to get to. Could you explain a little bit about how that works? Like, how does one get up to Machu Picchu?
Well, I know that you can hike the entire way from the very bottom of the valley, which props to whoever does that. But we were able to, you go to the valley, which is super touristy, and you get on a train, and the train kind of takes you like to the bottom of what you're seeing here. So the valley is like way below this. Mm-hmm. So the train takes you to the bottom of this, I don't even know what you call it, mountain.
Yes.
And then you get in a bus, and it goes crisscross up the little street that you're looking at here, the white and you literally think you're going to die, and it's in a normal sized bus going on this, whatever you can imagine. And yes, so then once you're there, you think, oh, I'm pretty close to the top. And then when you're trying to hike up to the top, it's 100% stairs.
Oh,
Just
goodness.
concrete stairs. So there's no like flat. So you go up, whatever, 1,000 stairs, and there's little spots that you can pull over and take a breath, and then you get back on. But it's a true stair stepper. But it was worth it.
Yeah, so worth it, right? To get up and see this view.
Oh, yeah.
Got you. All right, Sam, there's one more saying that you did in Cusco that, honestly, I'm not really sure what this is. So you kind of have to explain what and why and how. Like, a lot of questions here. So can you explain what you are doing in this picture right here?
Yes. So we found, this is not going to sound good. We found a bungee jumping center place
Right? Yes.
outside of Cusco that was recommended to us. But we arrived, and okay, bungee jumping in the US is like fairly expensive to do as an event. Like maybe like $300 or something, American dollars. We arrived, and they say, okay, your fee will be $1 American.
Oh my gosh.
And we are thinking, you're putting our lives on the line for $1 American. We probably shouldn't be doing this, but what's the worst that can happen, And we get there, and we thought that you would be bungee jumping off the side of a mountain, which you kind of are. But at the bottom is a concrete circle with a big red X on it.
Oh my God.
So we were in so deep, like you can't back out at that point. So
you can't get the dollar back, no.
You can't. And yes, so once you jump off, your face is like maybe 4 feet above this concrete red X. It was honestly really terrifying. Would I say that I'd do it again? No. But it's really great to say that me and like some of my closest friends all did it together, and we all survived.
I mean, that's a cool headline, right? Like, I bungee jumped in Peru for $1.
$1. My life is worth $1 American at this place, but that's fine.
Eventually, your mom and dad had to see this photo. What were their reactions to this? Was it great?
It was not good. I think my cousin saw it on Instagram or something and screenshotted it and sent it to my mom, which was not nice. And she was, no words, very disappointed. But I was alive. So at that point, what can you do?
Right, that's key, because my one bungee experience was in Vancouver, and I like had someone videoed for me, but I didn't send a video. The only thing I did was send a video after I did.
Exactly, after.
Right, so they knew I was okay.
Yeah, that's the point. That's the most important thing.
Exactly. Sam, there's one question I ask everyone, or mostly everyone who's been traveling a good amount. Let's say that like money doesn't matter, time doesn't matter. You have all the time in the world, whatever. Is there one country that's on your bucket list?
Probably Greece.
Okay.
I've never been there, obviously. But I would love to go there. And my dad is a pilot, and he's been everywhere in the world. And he always says, if I could go anywhere twice, it would be Greece. And you see the photos, and people, it looks so amazing. So that's probably the first on my list.
I mean, good scenery, good food. I mean, what more can you want, really?
Not much. Endless hummus.
Oh, hummus. Yeah, that's true. There is hummus as well. All right, Sam. So one last topic that I want to cover in this interview here is, okay, so you graduated from the University of Florida. Now you're in the School of Medicine. And something that you've joined while being here is the Wellness Coalition, which I think is awesome, because that's something that's, very important right now especially during these times, especially. Mm-hmm. So to kind of kick off this conversation, how and why did you decide to get involved in the Wellness Coalition in the first place?
Well, so they were asking us to have volunteers or people running to be the wellness liaisons in Bloomington. And I think throughout my undergrad, wellness was really important to me, being a cycling instructor, but also you get to go to these wellness conferences and wellness training, and you do a lot through this program at UF, which I thought was really awesome. And then coming and moving somewhere by myself where I didn't really know anyone, starting at IU, I think I really had to prioritize my wellness just to be able to get through it, especially at least the first couple of weeks. So I think that's always kind of been a priority in my life, and growing up and becoming an adult and having these hardships in school, just something that I've always had to prioritize to make it through. And also my pal Uni wanted to do it with me. So they said, you know, if you want to run with someone that you guys think you would, you know, do well together and accomplish things together. She and I just really clicked on that, even when we were just becoming friends. So I think she influenced us doing that as well.
Yeah, strengths in numbers, right? It's always better to do it with a good friend of yours, especially in a, I don't know what the right word, I don't want to say difficult because that doesn't sound great, but like, I don't want to say challenging either, but a complex kind of position.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, is there something about mental health that you learn while being a leadership position about mental health?
We do talk about it often, but I think what we learned kind of as a team and making these events for a very diverse group of students is that mental health looks so different for so many people. Like my idea of mental health and being, you know, mentally well is so different from what someone else might say or might, you know, imagine being at their peak wellness. So I thought that was really interesting to see what other people prioritize in their wellness and kind of making that a part of your life and a part of the student wellness program and everything like that.
That's so true because you know, for me, like going on a run, like really clears my head. But for other people, it could be music. It could be writing it out. It could be, there's definitely a lot of ways to make yourself well. And, you know, there's not one that's better than the other necessarily. It's just whatever works best for you. And as long as you're well, then, you know, there's no question about it, right? Exactly. So we're obviously going through an interesting time in the world right now. You know, pandemic, and then all of the protests and the injustice that we're, for some of us, like being really exposed to, others who have lived it for basically their entire life. In the med school world, like, you know, it seems so minuscule compared to everything else, but, you know, we have these exams, national exams that we have to get out of the way. So, you know, it's been a 2020, first half at least, has been a relatively, you know, it's been a challenge for some people with mental health. So I guess my question to you is, for anyone listening to this who is maybe not feeling, maybe they're at 70% today, what are some like go-tos or advice or wise words of wisdom that you would be telling this person right now?
I think, at least for me personally, this might not apply for everyone, but I think it's really important to take time, if that's 5 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, every day, to think about how am I feeling and why do I feel this way? And I think thinking about that, talking to yourself about it, and also reaching out to your friends who are close to you or who you think will understand the way that you're feeling, and just talk to them about it. Like, I know I've reached out to friends thinking, you know, maybe I'm overreacting, maybe I'm underreacting. How do I feel about this? And they're so understanding and totally like, you just click and you feel like, I'm not alone. I understand why I feel this way. And so many other people feel the same way that I do. And it's okay to feel this way. So I think that's been really important for me, just taking time. You know, when we're in med school, we kind of like shove all of these things. And, you know, I'll deal with this later, how I'm feeling today. Or I'm going to stop crying in 10 seconds because I'm at the library and I'm going to shove this away into the corner.
Right.
But we have a little bit of time now, at least since we are taking online classes, whatever, we're in the comfort of our own home to kind of address these things directly. And I think that's been really helpful, at least for me and a lot of my friends.
Absolutely. So if there's any med student from IUSM who's listening to this right now and they want to maybe like learn about a resource or two, what's a good way to connect with the Wellness Coalition?
I think if you know anyone on the board, obviously message them directly. We're so welcome to texting, Facebook, whatever, email, however you want to get a hold of us. We would love to talk to you. But I also think Dr. Lasik and the psychiatry team at IU has been really awesome at addressing these like immediate concerns, meeting with students within a couple hours. You know, they're just they've made themselves very available during this time. And I think a lot of people sometimes think, well, I'm not having an emergency, you know, I'm okay, I don't need to call anyone. Would be very surprised to see how useful they can be as a resource. You don't have to be in an emergency. They're just someone to speak to if you don't want to speak to us, or if you feel like they'll be a better service for you. So I would say don't be afraid to reach out to them via email, or you can do it on an IU form directly.
Yeah, absolutely. And to anyone not from IUSM who's listening to this, just remember, it's okay to not be okay. I'm sure you've seen it too. Like there is still a stigma maybe of like trying to reach out for mental health resources. And yeah, it's just important that like, as you mentioned before, just talking to someone about it, just, you know, having an ear to talk to, whether it's a phone call, whether it's with a friend or a lifeline operator or what have you, just having an ear to talk to can make a huge difference that maybe you weren't expecting. A lot of it, I don't know, maybe you want to weigh on this too, but I think a lot of it is just the simple validation that, you know, what you're feeling is not as abnormal as you might think it might be.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right, Sam, we are running out of time here. I want to thank you very much. This has been a fun interview. A lot of Florida stuff and a lot of important messages out here as well.
Thanks for having me. I'm so glad we did this.
Yes, absolutely. All right, everyone. We have succeeded in today's mission. We have proved that Sam Melo is more than just a medical student. Thank you guys, everyone, for joining tonight's episode. Please listen to the past episodes available on Cultura and maybe other platforms in the future. And yeah, can't wait to have you for our next guest. Have a good evening, everyone, and see you later.